vedete più la mia faccia, perché non sarò io ad accompagnarvi nel filone degli oceani. Oggi in particolare sarà una giornata tutta dedicata al femminile, ed infatti vado subito ad introdurvi, a togliere la condivisione e ad introdurvi la mia gioia e la mia fede, che ci accompagneranno in questo percorso. Ciao Gioia, ciao Federica.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Allora, che bello essere qui. Oggi, come anticipava Mattia, inauguriamo questo filone che a me sta particolarmente a cuore e finalmente iniziamo a parlare anche di mare.
Esatto, io vi faccio in bocca al lupo, godetevi la serata, non fatevi prendere dall'ansia, divertitevi e a tutti quanti gli spettatori, buona visione.
Grazie Matti, grazie come sempre. Allora, incominciamo, Fede? Siamo pronti, no?
Direi di sì.
Ok, allora io vorrei introdurvi oggi a un ospite d'eccezione perché è un ospite internazionale. Amalia viene dalla Grecia, ma adesso vive in Danimarca. Ciao! L'ho conosciuta in un evento come questo online, ma è talmente carina, è talmente energica, è talmente brava che insomma abbiamo iniziato questo rapporto di biodiversità, diciamo. Adesso ve la introduco anche in inglese, lei ci parlerà in inglese così tutte le persone, anche gli internazionali, potranno ascoltarci. Il suo titolo è Da vita invisibile a vita visibile, un viaggio attraverso la biologia, la biodiversità marina. Ciao Amalia, welcome!
Ciao, thank you very much for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here with you.
We are really happy too. So if you want, you can share your screen, and in the meantime, I'm gonna present your speech. Okay?
Of course. And if at some point my connection is bad and you can hear me, or if I speak very fast, just tell me something, because the chat sometimes can be challenging to follow.
Okay, va bene. We will for sure. So Amalia is a mathematician. As I told you, she's from Greece, and then she studied aquatic science at the DTU University in Denmark, and today she will talk about From Invisible to Visible Life, a trip through the marine biodiversity. So she will take a look at the diversity of species in the ocean, starting from tiny bacteria to the great waves. The stage is yours, Amalia. Grazie.
Thank you very much. So you already had the introduction from Gioia. She couldn't have said it better. So let's move on. What is marine biodiversity? As you can see from the photo here, you can see many different organisms of different shapes and different colors. So we defined biodiversity to be the total variation among living organisms. Can you see my pointer options? Okay.
Yes, we can.
Great. So there are 4 components of biodiversity. The first one is the ecosystem diversity. And here I have 4 examples of different marine ecosystems. We have the coral reefs that we have heard, they have very beautiful corals, and colorful fish. Then we have benthos, which is the seabed of the sea. The light can't reach there, and there are many mussels and fish. Then we have the mangroves. We find them at tropical climates, and these are trees with very deep roots inside the sea. And lastly, we have the pelagic ecosystems that are found in the open sea, and they are very, very rich in diversity. Then we have the species diversity. So the diversity among different kinds of organisms. So first we have the phytoplankton, which are basically marine plants. And as you can see, they look quite different from the plants that we see in land. Then we have zooplankton, which is the equivalent that we would say of insects in the oceans. Then we have fish, and among fish, there are so many different species. And we have also the mammals, like dolphins and whales. Another component has to do with the functions or the traits that different marine organisms are having. So one of those traits is the feeding mode. So how do they feed? Because some of them absorb nutrients, some other of them do photosynthesis. They take the energy from the sun, like the trees, and some others just eat other organisms. Another function has to do with the reproduction strategy. Some organisms, for example, single cells, they double their size and then they divide in two, while others just court. Then another function has to do with the way that they sense their environment. Some of them do it through vision, some others do it by processing acoustic signals. And lastly, we have the life cycle strategy. So for that, I will give you an example from the life on the land. Let's take the butterfly. So first, we have the butterfly in the cocoon, and then it becomes a caterpillar, and then it ends becoming a butterfly. For the fish, for example, here we have a simplified life cycle. So first they lay eggs, then they have these tiny juvenile fish that are called larvae, and then they become fry, and then they go to different stages until they reach adulthood. And again, another life cycle strategy could be for the mammals, for example, that they don't lay any eggs at all. It's just that they give birth to babies. And lastly, we have the genetic diversity. So it has to do with how the DNA of different organisms varies. So I thought that a good way to conceive the richness of marine biodiversity is through size diversity. So as promised, we have the bacteria here. Actually, even started with molecules because this figure is from a paper by my supervisor for my master thesis. And here we can see the different sizes, starting from 10 to the power of -8 meters. This is super small, and reaching to 10 meters and more. So let's start from the bacteria. Bacteria is a word that is known to all of us, I think, from things that we need to clean our hands for. And in the marine environments, they're very important because they affect the nutrient cycles and they decompose forms of material into simpler chemical components. And then moving to larger sizes, we have what is called plankton. Plankton comes from the Greek word planktos, which means drifting. So we have the phytoplankton, which is the kind of plankton that they're plants because they take the light of the sun and they do photosynthesis. Then we have the mixotrophs. So they have a mix of the way they feed. They also do photosynthesis, but they also eat smaller animals. And then moving to larger sizes, we have the sea insects that we saw earlier, zooplankton, that eat smaller animals. And moving to larger sizes, so here we have centimeters, and they can reach up to meters. So we have small fish like the clownfish, Nemo, for example, that I think most of you know, and then bigger fish like this one that this guy is holding. And we reach to sharks that can be very, very big. And the biggest category are mammals. So if we take the ratio from bacteria to whales, that is 1/100 million, which is quite big. But first, let's see why size is important. Well, what is cool with size is that as the size change, so do the functions or the traits in marine life as we saw earlier. So for example, if we look at this figure here, we have a few different traits. So here we have what they say resource encounter strategy. It is basically trophic strategy, what and how they feed, which changes as they grow bigger. Then we have the mobility, how they move. Is it because they have a whip, kind of like a tail when they're very small organisms, or as they are bigger, do they swim using their muscles? Then they have their sensing. We have for smaller organisms, the chemical or mechanical sensing, which means that they can detect the pheromones or they can feel the disturbance of the water environment around them. As they grow bigger, they use their vision. And for even bigger, they use what we call echolocation. So they send ultrasonic signals and then they receive the echo that is coming back, and that's how they can interpret their environment. And then again, life history, as we said before. So small cells divide, others of them have different stages since they're born until they reach adulthood. And also body temperature, but okay, this is up to this size, they change their body temperature, while here they keep it constant. So what I want you to do now, all of you, I want you to raise your hand, open it and look at it and imagine that you are holding a handful of sand. Now, from that handful of sand, imagine that you isolate one grain, and that grain, let's say that we put it under the microscope, and it will look like that. So if we compare a bacterium with that grain of sand, it will be 1,000 times smaller, and it would look like this other red dot. It's exactly the same size as my pointer. And now let's go to the other end of the size spectrum of marine life. Here we have the blue whale. The blue whale is the largest animal in the world. It has a length around 30 meters. And here we have it compared to an elephant, just to see how big it is. And we also have the Pisa Tower, because you're Italians, but okay, what relates the Pisa Tower with the blue whale? Actually, the Pisa Tower is 57 meters tall. And if we put a blue whale next to it, it would look something like that. I found pretty cool. To be honest, I didn't know that. Okay, so we compared bacteria with a grain of sand, and then we compared the blue whale with the Tower of Pisa. But how can we see those two? What's the difference between them? We know that it's a big number, but how can we really feel it? So now I want you to do something else. I want you to just try with the distance of your hands to kind of take 10 centimeters. And to help you a little bit here, I have this octopus that is 10 centimeters without the legs. And I have a friend who is studying octopuses, and he told me, oh, you know, you should show them this species here, the Argonaut octopus. It's very cute, and it sits on top of a jellyfish. So here it is, this cute Argonaut octopus. 10 centimeters, right? And now I want you to put in your mind the Great Wall of China, which is 20,000 kilometers long. So those 10 centimeters, if you imagine them compared to the Great Wall of China, there you have a difference of size between bacteria and whales. And as you can imagine, and as we saw that through the smallest and the biggest size in marine life, there's all this diversity of species and each one of them is playing a different role. So you can imagine what is the vast diversity of life in the ocean, from those invisible bacteria to those huge whales. But why is marine biodiversity important? It's because it serves critical ecosystem functions. It is that it regulates the climate, is that it provides food for us humans, and it is because it's very important for the biogeochemistry of the oceans through the cycling of nutrients. And regarding the climate regulation part, it is my favorite, and it's actually what I worked on for my master's thesis. So I will spend a little bit more time on that. So let's have a look at this figure over here. This first layer represents the atmosphere. This one represents the first meters of the upper ocean. And here we have the deep ocean where the light doesn't reach anymore. And here we have the bottom of the sea. So in the atmosphere, we have carbon dioxide, which enters the sea surface. There, phytoplankton, those organisms that we saw earlier, use the energy from the sun, and they also take up carbon dioxide, and they convert it to organic carbon. Then that organic carbon, incorporated in the body of phytoplankton, is eaten by zooplankton, and then that zooplankton poop, or they produce fecal pellets, it's a fancy way to say it. And then when phytoplankton and zooplankton die, their bodies, along with the fecal pellets, can sink below what we call the euphotic zone, where light penetrates. So when we have bigger sizes of particles of organic carbon, we call it POC, or particulate organic carbon, then they can go deeper into the ocean. And if they go beyond one depth that is around 1,000 meters, then they can stay inside the ocean for more than 100 years. And we say that carbon is sequestered. So this whole process is called the biological pump, and it's the mechanism through which marine biology is taking carbon dioxide, converts it to organic, and then stores it in the bottom of the sea. And since carbon dioxide, we all know that is the greenhouse gas in the largest concentrations. This is a huge, the role is huge into the regulation of our climate. But there's also the role that marine biodiversity plays in marine food web. All of us have heard the expression, big fish eats small fish, but we can generalize it into big eats small. And this is because every marine organism has the potential to be eaten by a different organism. So if we have a look here at the food pyramid in the oceans, here at the bottom we have the marine plants that take the sun's energy and perform photosynthesis. Then they are eaten by herbivorous consumers like zooplankton. Then those are eaten by carnivorous consumers, as we call them, such as young fish and jellyfish and crabs. And then these are eaten by carnivorous consumers, which are larger fish, and so on, until we reach at the top of the marine pyramid, marine food web, where we have sharks and the dolphins and the whales. And this is very important because through all these consecutive predation, the marine biogeochemistry is changing respectively. And it serves the services that we will see right now. So the biodiversity services are, as we said, food provision. We eat fish, we eat seafood like mussels. Also, some people are eating seaweed, and it is projected that in the next decades, most of the protein will be acquired from marine resources as the world population is increasing. Also, marine organisms provide pollution control because they filter the water of the ocean through the chemical reactions that they perform. They also provide shoreline stabilization, such as flood control, which is taken care of by mangroves, because with their very big and rich root systems, they prevent sea level rise. And then they also provide wave attenuation. These plants here, the seagrass, we have many of them in the Mediterranean Sea. Also, another service of biodiversity is the genetic resources that are provided, which are used for pharmaceuticals and cosmetics that we use every day. And also it's the aesthetics of marine environments. They're very pretty, and we all love swimming or looking at the clean ocean and cute animals. So the take-home messages are that marine biodiversity is there. We use it every day, but we don't really think about it. And even though we cannot see it, it is there and it is important. And here I have some sources. This is a paper that I used for the presentation. I tried to add most of the images that I took from the internet, but I didn't do it for all of them. So please don't share publicly this presentation. But other than that, that's it. And I'm ready for your questions.
Grazie. Thank you very much, Amalia. Ευχαριστώ. Yeah? Okay.
Yes, παρακαλώ.
Okay. Thank you very much. Fede, where are you?
Eccomi.
Eccola.
Eccomi.
Ci mancavi. We were missing you.
Thank you, Amalia. È stato davvero un intervento molto molto interessante, davvero. E vediamo se abbiamo delle domande. Ricordiamo ai ragazzi che sono qui, appunto, che se hanno delle domande possono accendere la loro videocamera e farsi sentire.
Esatto, anche in italiano, e poi traduciamo, o il pubblico da Facebook se vuole scrivere le domande, se no intanto possiamo chiedere qualche cosa ad Amalia. So Amalia, while we wait for the students eventually to ask questions, since I talked a lot about the Climate Kick experience where I met you, that I really enjoyed, even if we were online, I would like you to share maybe a couple of words about the experience, if you suggested it to everyone, and like this. Thank you.
Of course, for me, it was a great experience, even though all of us were a little bit hesitant at the beginning because it's the journey. So you told me about Climate Kick or the journey? Yeah,
in general, the experience, also the journey.
Okay. So I will start with the journey because this is also where I met Joya. So as you might know, it was all done online. We didn't travel at all. So we're like, okay, this is going to be challenging, but it was actually so nice. We learned so many things. You meet people from diverse backgrounds and you get to work on different aspects of the problems. You look at the environmental part, you look at the financial part, you look at the cultural part. You get to meet people, even though we haven't met physically. Some of them from Copenhagen I did meet. but you really learn a lot. And regarding the Climate Kick, because I was also a master's student of the Climate Kick, I also highly recommend it. So I don't know what are now the requirements, because with the Corona time, I think they change a little bit, but the part of a Spark, the lectures that you get to participate into that can be different from your field, it really opens your perspective and it builds that bridge. Okay, I have this kind of specialized knowledge, but how does this go over other fields? And also you meet many people. So this can build your network, but most importantly is that you can actually do nice things together. Yes, I don't know. I recommend it. I really liked it.
This is our thank you. No, because we are doing a project which is similar to the journey. So I would like to tell the students that are joining this experience, don't worry if it's online. I mean, the energy, you will get the energy anyway. You will learn a lot anyway. It's going to be great, and it will be as long as we believe in that, right? Okay.
Definitely. And guys, we even danced during our
Exactly.
online session. So impossible is nothing. Just believe in it, like Gioia said.
Grazie, Amalia. Thank you very much.
Thank you for inviting me.
Ciao.
Ciao.